what would you say are some of the main spaces that you've seen other than the, like the really powerful traumatic stuff, but what would you say are some spaces that you see that we have trauma that we are unaware of?
Ooh, that's a good question. I think some of the most valid ones are a parent who is emotionally unavailable. Not a parent who is emotionally abusive, but a parent who is emotionally unavailable. So most people will process this as thinking, oh, my dad and my mom, they were just really busy. So especially when someone has a single mom or a single dad whose life is about being both parents and is really busy and tough, hasn't been able to give the child validation, no one really thinks a lack of love is trauma. Everybody thinks that only if someone abuses me, that's traumatic. Whereas not getting what a child deserves and needs to grow is very traumatic, which is why like research shows, unfortunately, that children who move from like foster home to foster home or go from like, who've been given up for adoption by a biological parent, subconsciously, without even knowing that they were adopted, have such strong abandonment issues. They don't know why, but they know that in their head, something tells them they were given up, so they weren't loved enough. So some of the most like subtle ways are when, if we observe, a parent who's too busy to give us a hug, or when we've asked for love was just not available, a parent who works too much and prioritizes their coping mechanisms above our own. So, people just think if my dad and my mom was an alcoholic, then that means something's bad. But, they could have had another coping mechanism, which is work. Like your dad or your mom may have been addicted to work because that's where they felt safe. And as a child, you just don't get enough interaction from them. You don't get enough connection from them. And so these are some really small ways where as a child, you don't logically think, I'm not getting what I deserve, but your subconscious is telling you, yes, you're definitely not getting what you deserve. Maybe there's something wrong with you. That's what we process them as. And when we move into relationships, these things become really evident. We'll attract a partner who's obsessed about work, a partner who is emotionally unavailable, and our journey will be to try and prove to them that we're lovable because we still think we're trying to prove to our parents that we're lovable.
Wow. I'm hearing two things right now. One of them is how anybody watching right now can uncover some of these things, right? Like the story we tell ourselves, even in just hearing you share these examples, like, oh, my parents were busy. No, that could have reflected in a different way entirely, right? And so I can definitely see how this can be already uncovering some things for the people that are listening. But I'm also hearing the possibility of the awareness of us not creating this trauma, for this type of trauma for our children. Because when you use the example of like parents being addicted to work or parents that work all the time, immediately I thought to myself, I got to make sure I don't do that, right? Because I don't know if I want to have children. It's definitely not at the very top or even in the middle of my priority list right now. But I do know that I have in many times in many spaces of my career been addicted to work, right? Like been super focused on what needs to get done and when it has to get done and on the deadlines and the timelines and all that other good stuff, right? And so as soon as you said that, I'm like, wow, I wonder how I can make sure that I don't create that kind of trauma for my children. So on that angle or from that angle, how can we ensure that our behavior isn't creating traumas in our kids? So yes, what can we do to make sure that we are not the creators of the trauma and the people around us, those that look up to us, children especially?
That's another powerful question. Generational trauma used to be this concept of where people thought it was only from when a whole section of society was exposed to a certain kind of trauma. Like think about the Holocaust, think about racism, etc. Now that's a very strong sense of like where it comes from. However, within our own communities and like the little niches of our communities, we may belong to a generation of parents who, like for example, were born post-war or post the war period and had to build their lives up while they were building the economy. And so their focus starts to become now not on like the pleasures of life, taking time easy, like enjoying like the butterflies and whatever, but it's about making money, building the economy, having like a stable like household, etc. So their idea of validation and worth comes from that. Now, if you have a child in that space, this child comes to you with love, but you're like, love is not enough, honey. We've all heard our parents say, love ain't going to get you like, a beautiful house or any of that. You got to make sure that you earn it yourself. And that's such unconscious projection of our own insecurities. It's so tough. But we now absorb it and think, yeah, fuck that. Like, I need to prove myself. Because my parents are not going to love me or recognize me unless I bring home money, have a beautiful house, have this great partner, have proved myself at school or university, or like, any of those things, because that was how they got their validation. And so now they're projecting that sense of validation onto us. And so we think now that this is us. And next thing you know, we'll give this to our children. So I was asked once, how can I make sure that I'm not, passing this on to my kid, just as you asked. And the best way we can make sure we're good parents to our children is not by sending them to the best schools, not by sending them to the best therapists, but is by us being the best versions of ourselves. Now, what is that? That is us when we create the awareness of what's going on in our life to actually prioritize the healing. Most of us don't want to do that. The number one thing I go through at the start of my programs is when someone's like, you know what, I'm here because my partner fucked me up. And as they go through the journey, they realize, holy shit, I'm here really because I attracted a partner who played a part in me getting fucked up. And that's what we need to take responsibility for, especially as parents. We need to take responsibility, even as members of society, like fuck being parents. We need to take responsibility for how we show up. And as we show up with a more grounding, accepting, loving versions of ourselves, that's exactly what we'll project. Whatever we are, we will project. If we're insecure, we're upset, we need validation, we need achievement, we will project that onto our kids. But if we're more secure, we're more grounded, we're more compassionate, then we're more compassionate with our kids. We're more accepting and loving of how they show up and how they don't show up. And so truly, I think the way to be the best, member of society, parent, best lover also, is often to come back and say, what do I need to be the best version of me? And taking accountability to doing that.
I love that. And Quadira here is watching live through YouTube, and she says, yes, prioritize the healing. And it's that, what you were saying right now, prioritize that inner work that you need to do to make sure that you are showing up as the best version of yourself, so that you can use that to pour into the best version of you being what's showing up as a parent, the best version of you being what's showing up for your partner, the best version of you being what's showing up as a CEO or as a manager or as whatever the role or hat is that you are playing in your life in that moment. Because it is so easy to say, well, yeah, it's your fault. You mistreated me, or you spoke to me this way, or you did this to me, or you lied to me, or you cheated on me, right? But who allowed Yats into my life in the first place was me.
Exactly.
Right. And so where did I fail to create the proper boundaries with you to not allow certain behaviors to occur? Where did I fail to be selective and to dig into my self-worth of what I deserve in a partner, in a friendship, in a boss, in my income, from my clients, and with my programs, right? With what I charge, like all of these things. Start here. They start within. They start inside. We just tend to only look toward the outside to blame circumstances or people for the outcomes that we experience in life.
And so we do that because it becomes easier for us to absolve ourselves of the responsibility of work, right? If I can actually convince myself that someone else is the problem, then I've convinced myself that I don't need to do any work. But I've also unconsciously convinced myself that I'm not going to be able to grow. And that's the part we don't listen to. It's so easy when we project and we focus on the outside. And I get a lot of criticism at the start because my job is around battling people's egos. And at the start, when they come in, I'm always trying to break it down to them. But they're like, no, you're not listening. And somebody else is doing this. And I said, sure, but how is that going to change your life now? How is that somebody else? Honestly, they're not in your life anymore. You're holding on to resentment with them. How are they going to help you heal?